Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of TRF1, the rest is F1, where we three mates waffle on about Formula One. Today I'm your host Hamdan, also called Ham, and we've got with us Shaq for the Chinese Grand Prix review. Hey Shaq, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going good. We had another race, another championship round down, and let's say this one was not as exciting.
We were literally watching the race because expecting some of the yellow flags, safety cars,
Yeah,
red flags, but nothing happened. This was not the Chinese Grand Prix we expected to
yeah,
be happening.
yeah, that's true.
'Cause I think the last time we had a couple of scenes happening in this in the Grand Prix. This time it was clean and it was smooth. But then uh, it was a good race, but then wasn't as interesting as the Australia one.
Yeah,
So Shaq, what do you think about the race in general? How do you think you would mark this race over here?
I would rate it 5 out of 10, and
Five out of 5 out of 10.
yeah, um, it's down to just it was kind of a boring race. Australia, I would give it like a 10 out of 10 because that was chaotic, just rain and everything. But this was a bit, it was dry weather. There was only most people did a one stop, right? So 5 out of 10. I don't know. It was not very interesting to watch. Kind of the way it started is almost how it finished. So yeah, not interesting.
Well, I'd say I would give a 7. Uh, and I have my reasons for that, and we'll dive deep into it as to why. So, the first reason to give a 7 or at least a 3 or 3.5 for this race is because Hamilton's pole and sprint win during the sprint race.
Yeah,
In a Ferrari, his second race, his first sprint, and he's getting his first sprint win of his time. I
yeah,
think that is one of the least things that we've expected to happen. I did not expect Hamilton to be on pole for the sprint and to win it. So that was
yeah,
absolutely brilliant. I think you agree with me on the same thing there, Shaq.
yeah. Almost like 7 or 8 seconds, I think he won by. And
Yep.
just yeah, like you said, didn't expect it. None of us predicted it as well. We all had the McLarens and stuff, but yeah, nice to see someone else taking the lead and just he looked so in control for that whole sprint race, and he was like clearly the best with the tires in that race. But obviously with the full race, everything changed, didn't it?
Yeah, totally, totally. With the sprint, he did not even lose his lead to a single race to Verstappen or anybody else. He was in control of the race throughout, and it was good seeing Hamilton back in the front. It's been a while, and in red, people always fall in love with the red there.
Yeah,
But it was a beautiful sprint race, least expected, like I said earlier. But then the sprint is not the throughout the weekend. It's about we still had at the major race on Sunday,
yeah,
and that we did know how good or bad the Ferrari was. I would say they were average. Expected a little bit more from them after seeing the sprint race, but then, as you know, we had the very first pole position by Piastri this race. That was something. It
yeah,
was his first time getting a pole position. What do you think, Shaq? Would you have
yeah.
expected this?
Actually, the thing is, right? So I don't know if maybe you might have remembered, but Hamilton broke the lap record to get his sprint pole.
Yeah.
And Piastri broke that by another 2 seconds to get his pole. And it
No,
was
no,
like,
200th of a second. Sorry, 200th of a
was
second, I
this,
guess.
yeah, 200, sorry. Yeah. So Piastri broke that lap record by 2 tenths or whatever it was, or two
Yeah,
hundredths or
2/10 of a
whatever it
second.
was. And to get the pole finally, I mean, it's funny. He's won 2 races, now three, and he's only got his first pole in this race.
Uh,
So
he's had his sprint pole, but then he's never had his Grand Prix pole in his career.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of expected that he would be getting that.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
prayed.
actually did expect a pole. I did expect a pole at some point.
People were expecting Norris to be on the pole position, winning the race, but then Piastri has shown that he's also there. He is capable of doing what needs to be done. He had an amazing race throughout the season. Sorry, throughout the race.
Yeah, totally agree.
Uh,
Totally agree.
it was,
He was clearly the best with the tires, and the clear air was definitely something he was talking about that was important because that helps your tires not strain as much. Because I think what they were saying is this track is really stressful on the front left tire.
front left. They had a lot of turns. The front left was getting affected a
The
bit more.
first few turns, like with the it's kind
Yeah,
of hairpin and then another hairpin again.
it happened. Yeah, exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
and since it's a new track, it was the tarmac is new. There was a lot of grip and it was putting a lot of strain on the tires. But then, to all the racers out there, they did a really good job keeping it in control. Never had one car that had issues with the tire breakage or anything. Unlucky for Alonso, who had a brake failure, but then
yeah,
rest of the races kept it smooth, kept it clean, and it was a beautiful race. It was a beautiful race in that aspect. But then pole and win by Piastri, 1-2 by McLaren, that was something. But
yeah,
then I gotta say, Norris was struggling to keep up with Piastri at some point.
yeah, yeah. I really expected a lot better from Norris this round, but he just didn't. He wasn't clicking with the car in the sprint or the sprint quali at all. That's what he was saying.
Yep.
And yeah, the race. I mean, look, he didn't. Piastri didn't destroy everyone like with a big, huge margin, but he definitely was pretty comfortable in front of Norris this weekend. I don't think
Yep.
Norris was close, but
He was
at
clearly
least
comfortable.
yeah, at least he got the second place and he still got his championship lead because if it wasn't for Norris getting a second, it would still be the one and only Max Verstappen who would be
Max
leading because he
Verstappen.
is
I,
second.
I, I totally agree. He had a really bad weekend comparing to Australia. Was expecting a bit more from
But it wasn't
Verstappen
too
as
bad
well.
actually. It wasn't
He
too
wasn't
bad.
too bad. He wasn't too bad. I would say Ferrari's strategy calls made it a lot easier for Verstappen. At the very first turn, both Leclerc and Hamilton was ahead of Verstappen
But a
before
little
the,
contact. Yeah.
yeah, the little contact with Hamilton caused the front wing damage for Leclerc, but
Yeah.
then they kept it smooth. And uh, like ABD said during our chats while the race was happening, I think Ferrari is better off without a wing.
Yeah,
The
Leclerc was
cars
actually a lot faster
much
than Hamilton
faster.
in this in the
Yeah,
race itself.
yeah, totally. And then Hamilton was feeling a bit off during the race. He said he wasn't getting the pace he wanted with that. He was losing a lot of time, and he was talking that over the radio.
Yeah. Whatever they
It-
did to the car in the before in the session before the quali, they should not have changed it from what they had in the sprint because it seemed like
exactly,
that was
exactly.
clearly better and a
I
lot
think that
more
that setup was
effective.
clearly better for Hamilton, and I think it was better for Leclerc because
Yeah.
Verstappen did catch up with Leclerc and overtook them. And
Yeah, yeah,
that,
both the
I think it was a
Ferraris. Not
pretty
a
unnecessary call by Ferrari for pitting Hamilton and giving an advantage for Verstappen to overtake Leclerc. They could have at least saved one of the positions over there.
I think
But
they
then,
would have still had a hard time to
yeah, they
keep
would
it
have had a
behind.
hard time. But then, like, Hamilton was complaining about lack of speed and his tires getting degraded a bit too fast.
Yeah, but
So
also I think they were trying
Hamilton had a
to
good weekend.
yeah, I
He
think they
didn't
were
have a good.
trying to keep they were trying to do a two stop and undercut Verstappen because they were expecting everyone to pit. But
Yeah, they were. I think if when Hamilton pitted, and they expected rest of the teams to pit as well. If they had done that, Hamilton would have taken pole from
yeah,
Piastri.
yeah,
The race would have completely shifted into Hamilton's favor, but then it was a wrong call. But I did notice Hamilton picked up a lot of pace during the last 10 to 12 laps.
Mm.
He had covered almost 18 seconds in those
Yeah.
12 laps.
But I think it was a bit too much to ask at the end of it because everyone
Yeah.
else
At the
was
end of the
far enough
day,
ahead, you know?
everyone was far, but then he had actually caught up to the team. I mean, to the leaders there.
Yeah.
So that was one great stint done by Hamilton, but then a wrong call by Ferrari, I would say.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ferrari, Max, McLaren, we forgot one person, Russell.
George Russell, second, third place in a row. That's another podium.
Yeah, that on a podium, he's keeping the Mercedes on the Constructors' Championship. Two races in, Mercedes is on second position with George doing a really beautiful job with the team. He had lost position to Norris, but then two podiums in a row. It
Yep.
was good.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it was his best performance, but then it was good.
Yep.
Considering the pace of McLaren, he's done very well. He's done very well comparing to that.
Yeah. I think with the consistency of the Ferrari drivers, eventually they'll be ahead of Mercedes. But with let's see with how Antonelli goes, but let's see, maybe Mercedes starts to get a bit closer to McLaren, and then that would make it really interesting.
Oh yeah, truly, truly. Speaking of Antonelli, the rookies. I think among the rookies, Antonelli is showing some potential. Probably it's because he's in a faster car compared to others,
Yeah,
apart from Lawson. But then he is showing some potential. But then, as was Behrman and Hajar
yeah,
during the qualifying, Hajar was really fast. He was good. He was in a V carb. He did really well.
yeah,
But then when it came to the race, the car didn't show much potential. So same was the state of Lawson. He was out quick. He was out in Q1.
yeah,
He qualified P20.
yeah,
Not something that you expect from a Red Bull driver, but then considering all this, I think Lawson has to up his game. It's a second race, still the same position, even on sprint, even on race.
yeah.
I think Lawson is showing lack of form in the Red Bull.
I think you gotta take some consideration of that car though. It's definitely the most difficult thing to drive on the whole grid, I think. If you're not because that car, like you said in a couple of videos before, that Red Bull is suited for Max's driving. And Albon said it when he was there. It's a very sharp car. So for people to get in and to immediately make an impact, it's quite difficult. So I think you're gonna have to gotta give him some time because again, like he is a rookie, obviously, and he might have some experience, but it's nothing to help him enough to get into Red Bull properly. So I think he needs time. I don't think they can think about trying to get rid of him already. You need to at least give him maybe a full season, I think even. Just let him get some time in. And maybe next year it could really click and he'd start to find form at the end of this year, moving into next year.
Definitely not about swapping him from the Red Bull seats, but I'm only talking about him at least qualifying into the top 15 or top 10. The least he could do was that with the Red Bull. But
Yeah,
then, if we talking about the car performance, we've had some similar situations where George Russell was when he first came into Mercedes. It wasn't the fastest car on the lot, but then he did try his level best.
yeah,
So I think uh, you do need the car's power, but then I think a driver has to perform comparatively better in a car like that.
yeah,
I felt like Lawson thinks it's a bit too easy that since he's in Red Bull he would be gaining positions, but then he's got to put in some more effort. At least qualify qualifying above the top 15
yeah.
would be the least thing that he can start doing with a Red Bull.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
he's just got to slowly get
yeah,
into it, slowly get
he
into
should
it,
slowly get
climb
into it.
positions up and
Else
up, and
he is
eventually
going
he'll
to be
get
a
it.
next. He is going to be a next Perez if he doesn't do anything sooner or
Yeah.
later.
If
Because
you look at like the last few Red Bull drivers before Perez, you had Albon, you had
yeah,
Gasly. They still did
exactly.
end up getting some podiums and some, and
Yeah,
not wins, but almost close
Close to
to
it.
wins.
No, if I recall, Albon did have his first win in a Red Bull.
Oh, I
He
don't
had
think Albon's actually won a race.
he has not won. Or was it a second place or something? I do not recall. But then
I
he
think it
had one.
was I think it was a second or a third, yeah, but he definitely
He
did
had
get a
couple. He
podium.
had couple of races. Gasly had one or two, but then his performance went below. But then
Yeah,
we've seen Red Bull. We have seen Red Bull what they've done. They instantly swapped drivers during mid-season. That time they had Gasly initially, and they went to Albon.
yeah,
So anything is possible with Red Bull, because considering Lawson's performance in these two races, if
yeah,
this keeps going, I do think I think the people at Red Bull might consider swapping him with somebody else to get some sort of performance, because it's Red Bull.
yeah. But I
They
do
they
think I
they want to
think
see performance.
if they want it to be effective, they need to give it time. Otherwise, there's no point just keeping on changing drivers because no one's gonna just click with the Red Bull. No one is.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah,
if you
true.
put Sonoda there or Hadjar there or whoever other junior
I
driver they
I
have,
don't think it's going to make a difference. But then
yeah,
we've got to give it to him, Verstappen. He's doing it beautifully. I think,
yeah,
like you said, they are developing a car around Verstappen. So because of that, he is pulling the car through among those fast cars ahead of them.
yeah,
They, McLaren is clearly dominant throughout the races. We have seen Mercedes performing also. We have seen a Ferrari performing as well. But uh, with Red Bull, it's Max performing than the car.
yeah,
His skills, his pace, his enthusiasm, his what do you call it? His way of driving is what pulls Red Bull.
yeah.
So, and in constructors, you can't have a single driver winning the championship like he
I
did
think
in 2023. You
yeah,
need his mate to perform. Else, it's going to be really hard for him. We've seen it last year how it was. They lost the championship even though he's won the constructors.
yeah. I
Sorry, the
think
driver championship.
if Red Bull, I think what Red Bull is scared of is that if they try to make the car a bit more in the middle where it's more drivable for Lawson and a bit less drivable for Verstappen. They probably are worried that it's going to be too difficult for Verstappen or something like that. They might be worried for something like that. If then he might go down positions where he's currently maintaining fourth
Yep.
and top five and all that. Maybe they're worried that he goes down to the bottom five of the top 10 or something like
Yeah.
that. And the Red Bull car is a lot worse than what we think it is, just
Yeah.
because of
Exactly.
the way Max is
Exactly.
driving.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. And I think we should talk about the one-stop and two-stop strategies that's been going on through this race.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of teams chose the one-stop strategy because they had their mediums on initially and went for the hards and finished in a long stint.
Yeah.
But a couple of other cars were using a two-stop strategy, which did blow for some people and which did not. And one of the example is Hamilton.
Yeah.
I don't know why Ferrari did that two-stop strategy with Hamilton having a comfortable lead over Verstappen and getting a much comfortable lead with Leclerc. They could have saved one position like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But I think the two-stop strategy was a bad call. It would have been a beautiful one if everybody did it. I think Ferrari
Yeah.
would have aced it if everybody in the top has pitted. He would have
Yeah.
beautifully aced it.
So actually
But
what
then,
I noticed is what Brundle was saying before the race started. No one had actually tried the hard tires, so they did not
mhm.
know if they could run the mediums for a really long time and
Yeah,
actually
but they
use
were not
their
able to run it.
hards to do a one stop or a two stop. So they didn't know. And that's why I think most of them were intending to keep their two hard tires so that they had for the whole weekend and use both of them for the race. And they only ended up using one. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where,
How do you think? So, what do you think if some drivers have used the hard tires before the mediums? Do you think it would have made a difference to people who were on hard, especially in the top 10?
yeah,
If, for example, let's say Verstappen was on hards,
yeah.
do you think he would have made a difference? Would he keep a marginal lead over the people who were on mediums? because they would eventually have to pit sooner or later. So once they
Yeah,
pit, he would have made a significant lead over them. And once he pits for his mediums, he would have the fastest tires
yeah,
over the hard ones because they would have already been run a long time. And mediums are considerably faster than hards
yeah,
in the initial few
definitely.
laps.
Yeah, definitely.
So if they had called a hard over medium, I think that would have been a different sort of race. People who starts on hard, but there were other people who were on hards on the bottom half, but then they did not show much because a lot since they were a lot on the train, in the DRS trains and everything, they did have a lot of bad air, so the
Yeah, that's
tires
one
were
thing.
really fast as well.
China causes big DRS trains. I remember the first like at least like 8 laps, it was just constant trains. There was just so many cars going behind each other. No one could pass,
Yep,
right? And that was kind of, it kind of ruins the racing a little bit.
yep,
But
true, true.
obviously you need to have DRS, otherwise they can't pass at all, right? So I feel like
Exactly,
maybe
exactly.
they should look into a way they could fix DRS trains,
Yeah,
Obviously,
but then it's not just about the DRS trains. The bad air coming from the cars in front of them. It's
yeah.
nothing we can do.
Yeah, so that was
So
actually one thing that these regulations were supposed to do was actually clear that up, make the dirty air that you face when you're driving behind someone. It was meant to actually kind of eliminate it and get rid of it. And I think it's not actually done that. Probably made it even a bit worse. Because
yep,
like
totally.
as you would have probably seen the race, Lando was saying, "Oh, I don't want to get too close to Oscar because my tires will start to wear, and if I'm stuck in his dirty air, it's going to be a
Yep.
problem for my tires, right?" So
So, so, so,
for the
so, so I
drivers, it's a big thing.
so I think if the top teams, top five, for let's say, or the top 10 were on hards,
Yeah.
I think they would have had a different race, or at least a couple of them, if they had hard tires on, I think they would have had a completely different race compared to people on mediums because they were pitting on the 20th between the 20th and 25th laps.
Yeah.
Everybody pitted for the hard. So if somebody was on the hard, they would have gone for like 30th lap or something, 30, 35. And if they had pitted, it would have easily gone to the 20, next 22 laps or something.
Yeah.
If they pit from, for the example, if they pit from the lap 35
Yeah.
and put in the mediums on the 36th lap, and they could have finished the race, I think their car would have been much faster than the hard ones because they would have the tires would have been what 10-15 laps older.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Hard
you should
would be
definitely have
10-15 laps
considered
older,
that.
and towards the end they would have been 30-40, and the mediums would have been much faster comparing to the age life as well.
Yeah.
So I think the hard tires would have been the better option, but then that is all just a speculation because the teams know what tires
Yeah.
work
They
good,
know
but
they
they
more
did
they
not.
know more than us. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then they did not try out the hards even on the practice runs as well. So that is something we can look into,
Yeah, but
especially since
a
the
lot of people did I guess sort of benefit from the one stop, like Haas, both drivers on the points. And then you had like the other side of it, the V carbs, they tried to do a two stop and that didn't work. Obviously,
exactly.
Sonoda's thing was unlucky with the front wing, like such a weird part of the front wing to get damage,
Yeah,
like the
totally,
bit in
totally.
the middle behind
Yeah,
as
real
well. Like,
talk. So he did not have any contact with anybody else. So I think over the commentary they were saying that the through the turn one, I think he went a bit too hard on the curbs that popped up
yeah,
one of the wing.
probably.
Uh, yeah, that is what had happened. But
But you know,
then if you look,
the funny thing is actually the turn one, you're turning right, and the curb's on the left side,
oh yes,
and his front wing that broke was on the right side.
right side, yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe it
I don't
was
know
the
what.
curb on the inside. Maybe I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I know. Normally people take the inside curb, then then go to the left hand curb. So that's what
Well,
they
I think
show.
it broke before he got to the inside curb. Maybe I'm pretty
No,
sure on
no.
the
So
replay.
the how the lap one is, it's like it happens. So it goes through this, then comes down like this.
Yeah, yeah,
So it is like in an S shape.
yeah.
If
It
you
is
look from
S.
the
Yeah,
top, it's like a inverted S.
yeah, yeah,
So So people turn into the bend. They reach the apex. So they go wide and they reach the apex and they go down.
Yeah.
So I think when he was going in, I think one of the curbs would have popped his wing and had a major airflow issue with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was actually being dragged and he was actually becoming really slow. But
Yeah.
then, like you said, Haas was performing beautifully.
Yeah. They
They
had
were
some good
doing,
pace. I didn't
they
expect
had,
that.
but then we've got to talk about Albon.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was consistent. He was consistent in Australia. He's consistent in this race. Williams are doing something, but then
But what's
Sainz
Sainz
is
doing?
having,
Yeah.
we have no idea what Sainz is doing. Sainz was having a really hard time keeping up with the other cars. I
Yeah.
don't know. Even Stroll, he had a good race. He had an average race, I would say. Not bad, not great, but then he kept his car. Unfortunate incident for Alonso that he had a
Yeah.
brake failure. It caught on fire.
Yeah.
He had to retire the car. So that was a better unfortunate incident over there. But then apart from that, I think that was a good race.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that plenty more to come. It's clearly those two McLaren drivers. I think it's their championship right now. So let's see.
Yep. We've got plenty of race. The next race, I think, is in
Japan.
Japan, Suzuka.
Yep. Yep. Suzuka. Yeah.
So, guys, please don't forget there are going to be a lot of Suzuka pre-Suzuka race videos coming up by all the teams. People driving around this city. I think that is going to be the most of the people were waiting for that. I feel.
Yeah.
With the JDM cars, the drivers driving around the country. I think, sorry, around the city. I think that's one of the interesting things we can see
Yeah.
in Suzuka. So I think that's it all. That's all for today and the review of Chinese Grand Prix. I think it was a bit of a lengthy one, but we had to break into detail with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, lots to talk about and lots more races to come. Until then, bye from Ham and Shack. And guys, please do subscribe. Until then, bye bye.